Does High Drama have any reservations about the plays we saw? Well, let's start at La Mama, where I saw Elizabeth Hess's No Reservation. It has the elements gathering at a dinner party they weren't invited to. They look at the name cards in disgust. We never found out who was supposed to be there, as they never showed up. Wearing the intricate costumes of Kathy Shaw that consisted of kitchenware like colanders on earth, tongs on fire, while water banged a small frying pan around, evoking ocean. Later on, a person arrived wearing several garbage bags of trash, I think, around her waist. I guess she was supposed to be air or wind. It was poetical at times, and there was expressive dancing at times, but there was also a lot of yelling. It started out as WBE, weird but enjoyable, as I was intrigued, but by the end it descended into a bad acting class exercise. I honestly can't review this. It was so nonlinear, but I think it was how the female elements were not happy with the males and wanted to destroy them with their special gifts of earth, wind, fire, and water. I could be wrong. Along with most of the front row, I did find that we were nodding off now and then. It was just trying too hard to concentrate on making sense of it. I guess the point is to enjoy the pretty words and dancing and not try to figure it out. I gave it a mixed face because I did enjoy the beginning. But also playing at La Mama is The Barbarians, with my favorites Jess Barbagallo and Jennifer Ikeda, which is until March 2nd, which Mark and I were supposed to see, but unfortunately the cast got sick, and I'm still hoping to see it.
At the Duke on 42nd Street, you could see Kowalski, written by Greg Austin, directed by Colin Hanlon. And it's about Tennessee Williams meeting Marlon Brando for the first time in 1947, when Brando comes much later than he was supposed to Williams' beach house. And also, we see a little bit of Williams' boyfriend, Pancho, as literary agent Margot Jones. But the whole thing is really about how will Tennessee Williams and Marlon Brando get along, and will Brando get the part, which we know he ultimately does get. But as Eva wants me to say, there's a great deal of suspense in the play, because at first Williams doesn't seem to like this guy and doesn't seem to want him for the part. He's thinking John Garfield. Any rate, it's very entertaining. And if you love theater history, you'll just adore it, even though the people don't look like you would expect them perhaps to look, but they're fine. I give it a happy face.
Sanaz Tusi's English takes place in an English class in Karaj, Iran in 2008, where the students are hoping to pass TOEFL, the test of English as a foreign language, to make their lives better. Marjan, who lived in Manchester, England for several years, is trying to teach English to a small class that struggles with the English language while also trying to improve their accents. There are 4 students with different reasons for being there. Goldie is a kind 18-year-old who has always wanted to learn English. Roya wants to be able to communicate with her granddaughter in Canada. Her son won't let her come unless she can speak proper English. Elam is impatient, rude, and really seems to hate speaking English, but she wants to be a teacher's aide. Omid wants a green card, but he already seems to speak very good English. The class wonders, why is he there? Will they pass the test? Will they achieve what they want to achieve? What happens to you when you learn another language? How does it change you? Sanaz Tusi has written a very thought-provoking play, not only about the power of language, but the power of belonging in a land that isn't your own. Marjan seems to prefer English to Farsi, their own poetical language. The others like how talking Farsi makes them feel. I could relate to this play because it made me think of trying to learn French in college. At one time, there were only 3 people in the class, and because I spoke French poorly, the professor ignored me. Later, I moved to Paris and I was able to speak French more fluently because it was the only way I had to communicate. But I noticed how my entire manner and personality changed when I was speaking French. I felt like Goldie, as I always wanted to learn to speak French because it sounded so pretty. The original Obie Award-winning cast from the Atlantic Theater now recreate their roles on Broadway, and the acting was magnificent. To see how they changed from when they spoke English to the freedom of speaking their own tongue. Ironically, the class made them appreciate their own country and Farsi more, and I'm giving this one a happy face plus.
What I found most impressive about this production was its seamless handling of language transitions. Actors navigate between English, representing Farsi, and accented English with remarkable precision, creating a clear distinction that helps audiences understand comfort levels without ever being confused about what's being represented. As someone watching this play, and this reminds me of what Eva was just saying about French, I found myself developing a deeper appreciation for the challenges faced by English language learners, and even was reminded of my grandfather's arrival to the US, where he had no understanding of English and was therefore rated a grade A moron on his Army IQ test. The frustrations, small victories, and moments of confusion experienced by the characters resonated strongly, offering insight into the complex emotional landscape of acquiring a second language. I myself am not skilled at learning new languages, so I can totally understand all those emotions. While the production showcases innovative storytelling techniques and compelling performances, I found its narrative execution to fall short. Several character arcs felt frustratingly incomplete. Omid's relationship with his teacher and enrollment never finds satisfactory resolution. Roya's relationship with her son, initially presented as a crucial emotional anchor, drifts into ambiguity. These unresolved plot lines, combined with occasionally confusing character motivations, leave the audiences with more questions than it answers. I therefore give the show a mixed face rating. However, as I've said before, representing language barriers and its portrayal of cultural identity and its representation of English in a variety of ways make it a noteworthy audition.
Both Playwrights Horizons and the Vineyard Theater are presenting the Antiquities, written by Jordan Harrison, directed by David Krone and Caitlin Sullivan. It's told from the viewpoint of 2022, when non-organic AI creations have taken over and humans are becoming extinct. The first scene, and also played again later, is in 1816 when Mary Shelley creates the Frankenstein story, probably the first time that a creature is created and vivified by electricity, a non-organic means. I liked the interactions in that scene, but I thought it was very stupid when she calls the creature a computer. Seems totally unfit. Later scenes sort of chronicle the development of computers leading toward AI and the ascendancy over humans. Technically, this was a spiffy production, but I hated so much about this. It was sheer torture for me to watch. I really hate the fear-creating hype of the AI menace. It just seems dumb and boring to me. So I gave this mixed faces minus. I thought the acting and the scenery and the way that they were moving from one short scene to another with relative ease, I liked, but the play itself, I hated.
Well, I loved it. No surprise that Mark and I strongly disagree. I found it fascinating to show snippets of time frames to show the progressions that led to AI and humans basically annihilating themselves like the dinosaurs of yore. Also, I enjoyed that it went from 1814 to 2240 and then retraced itself to the beginning to maybe see how we could have stopped it before it became too late. It is not stupid, as Mark says, that Mary Shelley calls Frankenstein the electrified creature a computer. I thought. What a clever nod to Byron's daughter, who invented the computer. After all, Byron was there with his pregnant girlfriend, whose child may have been Ada Lovelace. It was filled with little Easter eggs like that. Blink and you can miss them, which obviously Mark did.
I
I'm
just thought they were stupid.
But it's not stupid, it was clever. Anyway, I'm not a fan of sci fi or dystopian societies, but because this was dealt with on a human level first and foremost, I could get engaged in the very scenarios of the people we learn about. Plus, it had a cohesive build to show that man's reach should not exceed his grasp. It helps that this is just an exceptional ensemble where some get to play multiple parts to show their range. So I'm giving this a happy face. We have a very interesting guest, Ben Kassoy, who's written this novel and now it's turned into a play. It was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which I was in back in 1988, called The Funny Thing About Panic Attacks. And if anyone has had a panic attack, which I have, it's like being in a waking nightmare because you can't breathe, you're shaking. It's like, sometimes panic attacks are mistaken for heart attacks. So tell us about your version of a panic attack.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So last year I wrote a poetry collection actually called The Funny Thing About a Panic Attack, and it's all about anxiety and mental health and the relationship between mental health and humor, creativity, family, relationships, and all of the things and people and experiences that can both create panic and anxiety and the things that we also lean on to alleviate panic and anxiety and make life easier and more livable. So I grew up dancing. I have a background in improv and clown and physical theater. And so I adapted the poems from the poetry collection into a solo show that incorporates original music and dance and physical theater. And like I said, it's based on my poems and my personal experience with panic attacks, all about the things that cause anxiety and how we can, instead of pushing away anxiety, how we can learn to actually embrace fear and pull it in close and find a path forward after these really terrifying experiences.
And let's face it, right now, America is in a collective panic attack. I mean, there's never been a more anxious time. So your play is very timely because it will hopefully give them tips on how to power through the next 4 years.
Absolutely. And a lot of the poems I wrote were in the backdrop of COVID, which was both a highly anxiety inducing time and a time for me and some others who found somewhat of a silver lining. We were having so many feelings, so many challenges and experiences, but having, for me, some of that quiet time and some of that solitude, which sometimes felt like isolation, actually allowed me to dive deeper into the cause of this anxiety and get closer to myself, both as a writer and a poet, and a complex person who's full of joy and creativity and love, and also full of panic and anxiety at many times. And you're absolutely right. I think the current political and cultural moment we're in, exactly like you said, Eva, is creating enormous amounts of anxiety for many people. And I didn't write the show as a way for people to overcome their own anxiety. It was really something personal. It came from a really personal place. But after every show, I have people coming up to me and saying, Ben, I experienced panic attacks and I'd never seen my experience portrayed so accurately on stage. I felt really seen in that moment. Or I'll have someone say, my daughter experiences panic disorder. Your show helped me empathize with much more closely with what she experiences. And so that, what came from a very personal place of both inner turmoil and inner creation, that's been a real silver lining, that it seems to be resonating with folks and impacting folks in a positive way.
And in your press release, you mentioned something about pancakes. What's this about pancakes?
One of the reviews, a really nice review. I said, she wrote this whole review, and then she said, "And what do pancakes have to do with it? They just do. You have to see the show to figure it out." So when you see the show, without giving any spoilers, pancakes are a theme throughout the show, and they play in unexpected ways. But the main thing I'll say is that a lot of what panic is about uncertainty and fear and a lack of control and looking into the future with a sense of dread, right? And for me, what pancakes represent in my life and in my writing is the opposite of that. Pancakes represent childhood. They represent, breakfast and good food and family and warmth and nostalgia and all these things that are the opposite of, for me, what a panic attack feels like. So that's something that comes up in the show, the contrast between panic and what pancakes represent for for me as a person and for the character that I portray in the show.
This was fascinating. Really, everyone should go see this. When is it now?
March 6th and 7th at Under St. Mark's.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really glad you contacted me because I really enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Eva. I appreciate it.
Joy Behar's My First Ex-Husband is on at the MMAC Theater through April 20th. In the intimate world of My First Ex-Husband, Joy Behar brings together a powerful ensemble of storytellers to dissect the complex landscape of marriage and its dissolution. This 90-minute theatrical experience offers a raw, unfiltered look into the personal stories that surround divorce, proving that every ending can also be a beginning. This production's minimalist staging, which is 4 chairs and a deeply vulnerable script, echoes the Broadway show All In, creating intimacy and authenticity. The rotating cast of acclaimed performers ensure that each 4-week run brings together a fresh perspective that deeply resonates with audiences and presents personal stories. What sets this production apart is its remarkable diversity. The narratives span a wide spectrum of experiences: trans individuals, Hasidic communities, musicians, actors, widows, and those navigating the turbulent waters of infidelity. Each actor delivers their monologue with such genuine emotion that the lines between personal experience and performed story beautifully blur. Behar's meticulous research is evident. By speaking with numerous women about their marital experiences, she has crafted a show that feels less like a performance and more like a support group, vulnerable, honest, and surprisingly humorous. The current cast ends February 22nd, featuring Joy Behar, Susie Essman, Tova Feldman, and Adrienne C. Moore, which brings incredible depth of comedic and dramatic talent to these stories. Their performances transform what could be a heavy topic into an evening of profound yet entertaining storytelling. While the show will undoubtedly resonate most strongly with perhaps women who have navigated marriage, its themes of love, loss, and personal growth, I think there are bits that audiences of all backgrounds can resonate with. I give it a happy face.
What struck me as a common theme in all these stories is how the women gave up their identities and personalities to cater to the man's ego. They weren't allowed to think or feel for themselves, but had to please a husband who usually turned out not to be worthy of these women's loves. Why they stuck with these loathsome individuals is explained in a comprehensive way. Here, the living happily ever after is living happily ever after the divorce. These actors and the following cast are all heavy hitters with great comedic chops, which is necessary to make this work. Or else it could be one unbearable scenario after another. But here we get a chance to laugh, cry, and cheer, and even gasp now and then. It almost makes me want to go back and see this with each new class. I'm almost glad I never got married. And the upcoming class, coming from February 26th to March 23rd, is Judy Gold, Susan Lucci, Kathy Moriarty, and Tanya Pinkins. And from March 26th to April 20th is Vian Cox, Gina Gershon from April 2nd to the 20th, Jackie Hoffman, and Andrea Navedo. So really go see this. It's a lot of fun. I'm giving it a happy face.
River Players is presenting Measure for Measure by William Shakespeare. It concerns Vienna in a time of total licentiousness. So the Duke, who is the chief executive of Vienna, goes into hiding, basically, and appoints his very stalwart, icy-blooded underling, Angelo, to take his place. One of the first things Angelo does is condemn this guy named Claudio for fornicating, since he's got his girlfriend, who he's planning on marrying, pregnant. Claudio's sister is a novice. Her name's Isabella, and she has to plead for her brother's release. Unfortunately, she's not able to get Angelo to release Claudio, but instead she inflames the passion of Angelo, who has a tough time deciding what to do. He eventually decides to make a deal with her, to tell her that if she gives him her virginity, he could let her brother go. This for her is a fate worse than death for her or her brother, which seems a bit strange to me, but then again, I'm not a novice nun. Things develop after that in a very strange way. This is a play that's called a comedy, but is rarely funny and seems to be conflicted about everything in it. Still, I like some of the performers. Alex Rowe, who we knew from Metropolitan Playhouse, is wonderful as Angelo. You really believe he's going through all sorts of conflicts. And I like the guy who's playing the Duke, that's Brian Lyndon. And of the women, I think I liked most the one who played Marianne, who has a small part, but she was able to really say her lines in a way that they didn't seem forced or unnatural, something that a lot of the others had trouble with. It's a very difficult play. I don't think any production of it could be really perfect. So, but I'm giving this a mixed basis plus.
Yeah, and the other actor I liked a lot was Felix Teich as Lucio. He was a great comic relief.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, you know, I hate Shakespeare, and this is the one I hate like the most, really, because it makes no sense. Why even arrest them? Why not just let them get married? And I'm sorry, but the actress who played Isabella, Natasha Partnoy, she whispered her entire role. I was in the front row and I had trouble hearing her. I mean, it was just so annoying. The surprising thing is, I think it's because I know Alex Rowe and I adore Alex Rowe. Usually he's supposed to be the bad guy. You're supposed to really hate and detest him and want bad things to happen to him. But no, I was on his side. And then for some reason it was taking place in an insane asylum or something. I mean,
a hospital, I think.
Blood on the floor. I mean, I don't understand what the heck was going on. But I will say this. This is one of the best measures for measures I've seen. And the fact that I found myself giggling through it. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's because it was so terrible or because it was funny, but it's like, I actually did laugh and I didn't hate it as much as I usually do. So I'm going to give this a mixed taste plus.
Jen Ponton's Sugar Coated and Deborah Unger's The Longer My Mother Is Dead, The More I Like Her are a duet of solo plays in the off-Broadway debut of Maiden, Mother, Krone. Difficult life topics and experiences are the themes that comprise this unique solo show offering. Sugar Coated opens the show with a warm welcome for the audience to Jen Ponton's 7th birthday party. The audience's chairs are garnished with festive party hats and chocolates, promoting the participation in Miss Ponton's special celebration. Pop music from the 80s is a further declaration of the festivities at hand. From that special day, Miss Ponton beautifully escorts her attentive audience through the many other special days of her life. Her struggles seem to be a bit like typical angst for an adolescent navigating her way to adulthood, yet there's more to it. Some are good, and some are not so good. With the assistance of well-considered props, lighting, music, and projections, her story is shared with gentleness and gratitude for her audience. Humor is peppered throughout her storytelling, which serves well without sacrificing the seriousness of her hurt. That takes true talent, and Miss Ponton graciously does that. Following a short intermission, The Longer My Mother Is Dead, The More I Like Her is presented. The mother-daughter relationship is the theme of this solo play. Portraying both her mother and herself, Deborah Unger richly gives both sides of the story. There are fewer props, projections, and music than Sugar Coated, yet it does not alter Miss Unger's considerate sharing of her story. Using eyeglasses as a single prop, we know it is her mother speaking. Miss Unger reflects on conversations had and not had with her mother, missed opportunities for each of them to see each other's side, to some of life's most challenging situations. Regrets seem to be the overhanging thing for them. At times, it was so expressively shared, one might feel like they were at the family's kitchen table, chatting with the pair of them. And yes, maybe being an arbitrator for them too. The only item that might be considered is the length of the show. Heavy topics are addressed in each of the plays, and the 10-minute intermission did not feel like enough time to digest each of them. Other patrons may not have been affected by the runtime, as was I. Overall, this presentation of Maiden, Mother, Krone is a great offering for those solo show lovers, as am I. I'm giving it a happy face minus.
Sam Kissajukian's 300 paintings returned to the Vineyard until February 23rd. This time, Sasha Clarke got to see it. This is her review. If you have never heard of Sam Kissajukian before, you would be forgiven. He is a very colorful person with many interests and rather unique opinions. Originally from Australia, he started out as a stand-up comic, thinking that would be a suitable outlet for his creativity. But ultimately, it did not work out for him, and he quit. At a loss as to what to do next, he decided he should rent an abandoned cake factory and live there while he figured things out. He tried his hand at a number of different projects until he finally settled into a routine of painting a different canvas daily, sometimes more, hence the title. Assisted by visual aids, photos projected onto the large screens of some of his pieces, he describes his state of mind and his work. Sometime along the way, it turns out that Sam is diagnosed with bipolar disorder, going from periods of manic activity, the paintings, to severe depression. His singular journey and the recounting of his recovery provide a vast tapestry of thoughts and ideas. Mr. Kissajukian is a very engaging performer, and the audience is with him every step of the way. Personally, I thought that there could have been better use of the screens and the projections. His artwork is displayed on the lobby walls where you can see it before and after the show. Be sure to allow time to take it all in. Happy face. Our next show is March 8th, where we will be talking about Philip W. Chung's My Man Kono, which tells the riveting story of Kono, Charlie Chaplin's chauffeur turned man Friday back in Chaplin's silent heyday, who was invaluable to Chaplin, and what happened to him in the throes of World War II. And we have an interview with Jane Dubin, producer of Still, and the listing will be on the Facebook page.